Identifying a liar is no easy task, as you may have been discovering for yourself, and there is only one big clue somebody is lying in a conversation. It is when you ask that person about the same thing twice, and the second time you ask them, they give a different version or a different answer, whereas you have been asking exactly the same thing. This is the best clue, but this one is pretty difficult to have because, first of all, you need to be able to ask twice the same thing in some context or some scenarios at work, for example. It may not be that easy to confront somebody like that if it is your boss. Many scenarios in which you won't have that freedom of communication. Therefore, some more subtle cues that somebody might be lying right now. The first one is when you just refute, dispute, or resist in some way the claim or the assumption or something somebody wants to make you do. You just resist, or like you just dispute, disprove something they said, and they try to start, or they start to try closing the distance with you physically somehow. Either with some gesture, they are trying to like invade your space somehow. It's like metaphorically they are trying to grab your soul. They are trying to get a much more proximity, with much more physical proximity to you. It may be physically with their whole body, just with their gesture, or maybe they are leaning in like this more and more, specifically when you resist. It is not a clue if that person does that all the time, non-stop. It is not a clue, but if the person starts doing that specifically when you dispute or resist something they want to make you agree upon or something they have been claiming, it might be a big hint that they are hiding something or they try to get something out of you. The second big one is if their eyes are starting to look in many different directions, specifically with an acceleration of movement, like they are nervously starting to look away, like even maybe scratching something, when it is really an acceleration. So again, it is not about when somebody is just scratching or just crossing their arms, as a matter of fact. It is really when it happens just after you asked something uncomfortable, or you asked something about, let's say you have been on point and they have answered twice the same question, not with the same details. And if you put that into light, you just tell them, listen, you have given twice the same answer, and the second time it was not the same answer. So I think you're lying, or you may not say like this, but basically you are putting them in some confrontation and they start to look in many different directions or like gather up an answer, maybe scratching their mouth. Just some more nervousness, but only if that nervousness is happening just after you said something that might be difficult to answer, something that might put them on the spot, under the light, about something they did or something they missed or something they wanted to hide somehow. And it's more likely the case if it is coupled with an acceleration of speech. If they start speaking way faster to start to get all the words out really faster, this being linked with the constant look into different directions, it might really be a clue they are more nervous based on the specific thing you have told them or talked about, or about the specific thing you are questioning, or the thing they have just talked about that they are not really assertive about, or they can't really show any proof for what they are claiming. This is really a big spot here. And the last one, number 3, is when their tonality becomes higher, like way higher. They start to speak way more high. They start to speak with a much more insecure voice. Same thing, it is only the case if it happens at a very specific moment when you are talking about the topic that is controversial, or the topic where you're suspecting the person is lying. If specifically on this topic, when you just enumerate it or you just explain something about it, right on the spot, right here, the person starts having a higher pitch. Big clue, there is something hidden here, something the person is not clearly explaining or talking about, or is trying to kind of hide. In many cases, it is not directly a lie. It may be just that part of that topic is something the person is not comfortable with. It is not always a direct cause and effect, and usually those signals mean something when they happen as a cluster of signals. Just one of them in itself isolated is very seldom meaning anything. Usually you can tell somebody is lying when you have a cluster of all of that, and when you have had multiple conversations with that person and you have noticed that every time you get back on this topic that is kind of controversial, or the topic where you think the person is hiding something, every time it goes back to one of the signals enumerated here. So they start getting more nervously scratching and looking around, or they start trying to close the distance and like put their hands in front of you because they try to make a point. When they're really getting more insecure and getting more in front of you, or like completely evading, but maybe another one on the opposite, if they completely evade the thing every time you start getting them stuck on the one thing you want to make them admit and they don't want to admit it, if they always evade, switch to another topic, it might be the case if the person has a higher authority in that social context over you, or if the person thinks they have a higher authority, which may not be the case, but some people have a huge ego and they think they are above you all the time, no matter who you are. Usually those people may get into trouble when they get in front of a police officer or somebody who really can get them into trouble. That can happen. But even without that, just when the person is shifting their behaviors repeatedly, every time you are enumerating the topic, the negative topic, or the thing that might be lied about, the thing that might be hiding some lies, if every time you bring that topic up, there is one of those signals firing off, you are really on a big spot. That person is hiding something or directly lying to you, or lying about some part of the situation. Maybe not the whole thing, but maybe there is one thing they don't want to admit. As usual, it is not really about putting people in boxes. Oh, this person is a liar, this one is not. Everybody may have different behaviors depending on the situations, the people they are interacting with. So use those signals to be more attentive to the people around you in your social situations. Don't use that either as an excuse to just try to put yourself as a judge. You're not a judge. You don't have absolute truth about people. You can just become a more accurate student of social interactions to figure out who do I want to spend more time with and who is just a toxic person I want to get away from. If you want some more videos about that, you can let me know in the comments. And if you want to learn about neuro-linguistic programming and how to read people and how to better communicate with them in social situations, you have a small document in the description called the 3 Fundamentals of NLP, where you can just learn about those skills and see where you are right now and what is the next step for you based on your current level of abilities in that field.